What's up, everyone? It's Ditch. It's Magnetic Soul. And we are here with episode 2 of our new podcast, Young, Wise, Old Men. Thank you guys, everyone, for the support. It's meant a lot. We really just wanted to start this podcast because we wanted to spread good energy, good vibes. We wanted to help other people through the conversations that we're just having at home because we're roommates and we live together. So it's like, why don't we just record these conversations and put them out there for the world to hear because we have really awesome conversations. So appreciate everybody for listening to the last podcast, all the support. The best thing to do to support us, as always, is to like, comment, and subscribe and share it to your people. So if you don't mind. Okay, so today we want to share with you guys. Zay and I have been talking a lot about this concept lately, circumambulation, which we both just learned about recently. I learned it through Carl Jung, who I've been doing a lot of research and reading on lately. And he talks about this concept, circumambulation. So a lot of people believe that, or really view is a better word, trauma as a linear path, right? You go from A to B and you heal from the trauma by going from A, the trauma, to B, the healing. Carl Jung would talk about how circumambulation is this process that your soul wills you into engaging in. And what circumambulation is instead of thinking as healing from trauma as this linear A to B type of path, it thinks of it as this three-dimensional vortex. And whatever your trauma is that center of gravity. And you keep circumambulating around that trauma and that gravity, that center of gravity, until eventually you shoot out the other side and you become integrated with it and you're in that state of healing as a way of being. And so when I read this, it blew my mind, and when I shared it with Zay, it blew his mind. So I'll let you go.
Yes, it blew my mind because in a way, let me first say this, like Adam's what he said, we all have pain and stress, and that pain and stress, our response to it, our mind and body, that is trauma. And so there's one thing, that's one thing. Then the second thing is experiencing these things, right? Discovering what it is, how it's affecting you, discovering what it is, figuring out that actually these so-called, it makes you feel like it's punishment, but these are actually just lessons to learn from, so that these are the solutions. So the circumambulation, when you circle around doing the work around all of these things that I mentioned, then one or two things happen. You either have fear around it and it either blocks you and keeps you stuck, or you learn from it and it propels you and moves you forward.
Yeah, and that's why your soul wills you into this whole process of circumambulating around whatever the trauma is, because your soul is trying to tell it or trying to solve this dilemma, right? Which is why you feel like you keep ending up back in the same place as you started a lot of times. It's not because you're stuck. It's actually because your soul is willing you into circumambulating around this until you integrate with it and you can come out the other side. So we just were talking a lot about this, and it's just we just want to share with you guys because it's been a mind blowing fact for us, and just a new philosophy, a new paradigm to be able to look through life as at with and yeah.
It really is. It's a whole new perspective. It's a whole new shift. That's exactly, to kind of shift into what that means. I'll give you an example. It's like, for myself, like, I didn't realize that the things that I experienced, and let me just say this too, it's not about it being your fault or not. Like, external things happen in life. It's as far as just out of your control. So let me just say that. Um, but what I will say is that also is something that I learned is that how this is affecting how open, how I view myself, and how I view the world based off of what I experienced. And that to dig more deeper, specifically, that's communication. That is not a judgment or shame for being open and being myself and talking about how I feel. You know, this is what I mean, and I encourage each and every one of you to learn from these things.
Yeah, and so every time you have a moment where, you know, you seem like you're coming back around on yourself as far as, oh, communication or whatever, using one of your examples. You're not stuck. You're not ending back up where you've been. You're circumambulating it until you integrate it, and then you one day you won't be circumambulating. You won't feel you stuck. You won't feel like you. It'll just be flow. You know. So thinking of it this way, I think, is really helpful because, especially nowadays, like modern psychology and just the way that the culture wants to tell you how to think and view life is, in my opinion, a way harder way of thinking of life than using this philosophy, just even just this simple tool that Jung kind of really, he didn't come up with the word, but he came up with applying it to psychology and this and the psyche and philosophy and consciousness and all of these things. So if you don't know who Carl Jung is, I highly encourage you to go check him out. So the other thing is that lately, Zay and I, we've been talking a lot about how we're at a place in life, both of us, where we've done a lot of work on ourselves. We've been on this journey of working on ourselves and self-improvement and all of this stuff for over half a decade each. And so we have done a lot of work on learning how to manifest, how to write the right equations in our minds as far as what we're telling ourselves about ourselves, but also about the world outside of ourselves. And we're at a point now, we found our purpose, we know what we're here and we're meant to do on this planet. And it's not just what is your occupation. Because like I make music, but a lot of people make music, but I'm here to help people choose change in life through the music I make and through the sound healing that I'm doing and through this podcast that I'm doing with Zay. And so it's like we really deeply know what our calling is on this planet. So we've been talking a lot about this lately and how you get to a point in the journey where you've been planting all these seeds and you've been doing all this work and you've been having these ego deaths and you've been discovering new versions of yourself that you never knew existed, and you're really elevating, and life becomes like opens up like a flower. And we keep talking about how it's weird at first, because at first it is weird because it's new and you're used to chaos and you're used to having to go through the ringer per se in order to feel like you achieve success or are doing good, whatever that means. And like we always talk about doing what you should do, which should is a made up idea. Like should is what you should do in your own mind, okay, but is it what you should do in reality? Like in should is all based on expectations that have already been preset and predetermined when you're talking about what you should do, according to whom. So it's just kind of this made up idea, which was we like to talk about it that way a lot. So anyways, it's like we're in this new place in life, both of us, where we have done so much manifestation work, so much inner work, um, so much integration with our shadows, that we're at a point in life now where our life is opening like a flower. And I hope we can speak to some people out there who are also experiencing the same thing or in the same moment in their journey, where all the stuff you've been working so hard for starts happening. And you almost don't know what to do now because you're just so used to dealing with stuff and trying to figure it out and heal and get out of survival and all this stuff. So, just want to remind everybody out there to take a step back. Remind yourself that you got here for a reason. Things don't happen by an accident. You've been doing the work. You will continue to do the work, and that you can trust yourself to continue to carry yourself to carry you through life and continue to get you more of your dreams, to become reality. So I'll let Zay speak on that.
Yeah, I mean, you have everything that you need within yourself. Um, that's a big part of why I love doing the podcast. Yeah, I love the music. I love the mental health events. You know, not just because I'm a certified life coach, but I mean because the purpose of it, and it's really to guide to people to become aware and honest of what's already within us. Um, the real reality is that until you accept and let go, you will not be able to do any of these things that both of us mentioned. And a big part of it, I'll do a little rewind because it's a lot of stuff. You can't, it's delusion when like you said, should. It's a preset thing that you've already created on your own that's separated from the truth.
Yes.
That is delusion. And the reality is that the moment that you start doing that, which is altering the truth, then you're not going to be able to live to your highest potential. You're not going to be able to be open to changing your mental, changing your emotion, changing your physical, changing your spiritual, changing your financial, sexual, all these things that are aspects of ourselves. You know?
Yeah, I mean, he's totally spot on. I mean, and what he's talking about is the shadow, right? And this is also Carl Jung, um, you know, term. And it's like what he's talking about is integrating yourself with all parts of your shadow. And if you don't know what your shadow is, what the shadow is the shadow is these parts of yourself that live in your unconscious that all together make up who is fully you. But you're not aware of the shadow until you become aware of it. That's why it's called the shadow. So if you can learn to integrate your shadow, become friends with your shadow, the deepest parts of yourself that you fear the most, the deepest parts of yourself that you love the most, like all parts of yourselves. And I'm really glad you brought up acceptance and letting go, because he's right. Those are the prerequisites to all of this. If you can't learn to accept and let go, and what's involved in acceptance and letting go is getting to know yourself and then letting go the old version of yourself and accepting who that was, accepting who you're becoming, letting go who that was. And also something I like to say is letting yourself go into your future. So um these are great concepts, and I'm really glad that he was talking about acceptance and letting go as it relates to being able to manifest the dream life that you're in. So for those of you out there right now who they are living their dream life, and or your guys are where we're at, where our dream life has just started to begin, and as Winston Churchill would say, it's not the end of the beginning of the end, it's the end of the beginning, right? It takes some getting used to, and at first it feels uneasy because you're starting to question whether you either deserve it, if you're worthy of it, if you belong here, is this really happening, whatever. And you have to understand that, yes, you do deserve it. That's why this is happening. Nothing happens by accident. And you did get yourself here. That's how you got here in the first place. And so that involves integrating yourself with your shadow and learning to accept and let go so that you can allow what's greater than yourself to occur in your life and let your life unfold through that process, as opposed to you trying to be in control and all of this stuff.
That's very well said, man. And it's just beautiful because when we first experience the new, right, when we make change, it's uncomfortable, it's discouraging, we question it, all of the things that you mentioned. However, though, the energy, you can't allow your emotions to block the lesson.
Yep. Can't take things personal. Like taking things personal is typically more often than not related to you projecting something that you feel insecure about onto someone else. Not all the time, of course. Sometimes people are, they're rude and stuff and disrespectful, but more often than not, taking something personal involves you interpreting something as personal because you have an insecurity about whatever that is. So I'm glad you said that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's for
You're
sure.
blocking now you're blocking yourself from even.
Which is why you said the emotion blocks you. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So the emotion blocks you, and then all of a sudden you're taking things personal, but that's not how it's actually being existing in in outer truth of reality, right? Like, because we all have our own realities. We have our truth, our reality. We have, and then we have like other people's truths, their reality, and then we have the universal truth of all of the reality that we all live in. And it's like you may take something personal, but that doesn't mean that that's the reality of what was said. And so if someone says something, maybe it comes off as personal, but maybe you interpreted it as coming off as personal. And now you just created an issue because you took it personal, and that person actually didn't mean it in a personal manner. So you start blocking yourself because you're in the emotion of taking it personal, like you said. And then you're back into not being able to accept and let go.
Wow. Because it's like before it happens, you're already
Yeah.
having that in mind and acting like that.
Yes.
Chosen that.
Yes. My dad is a music manager in the music industry. And as a lot of people in my community know, I mean, I'm a musician and all of these things. And what he'll always tell me is that the biggest thing with musicians and artists and creatives in general is that they don't realize the reality of how their art is interpreted outside of themselves. Because what happens is an artist will hear a song, but they're hearing the song they hear. They're not hearing the song the whole world is going to hear. So they start making a song based on their own judgments, their own boundaries, their own whatever constraints that they put into it, which might not be bad. I'm sure it's a good song. But a lot of times that can actually end up making them overthink the song, overanalyze the song, rework it way too many times. Maybe the song never even comes out. And now you just blocked yourself from the song being what it's meant to be and then going out in the world and allowing it to accepting and letting it go and allowing it to go do what it's meant to do in the world. And then everybody gets hung up on these records. Oh, I got to make sure this record doesn't go to waste. I got to do all this stuff. I got to make sure, I hold on to it. Just rinse and repeat. Make another one, because if you've integrated with your shadow and you know who you are, then you should be able to just be able to continue to do that. So it really does come back to not getting in your emotions. And my dad will tell me stories all the time of these musicians getting in the way of albums releasing, getting in the way of shows being, tours being booked, all of these things, record deals, all of these things, because they're so in their emotion and they think they know better, when maybe they do, maybe they don't. But there's a lot more going on in actual reality than what's just going on in their reality. So yeah,
You're not allowing yourself to see the bigger picture.
exactly. Which screws everyone who's in the bigger picture from seeing you fully. There you go. It does. It goes both ways. This is a two-way street, right? So it's like you get the panoramic view through meditation, psychedelics, really, really hard work or finding a passion that you dedicate yourself to, all of these different ways, and you get this panoramic view. But when you obtain the panoramic view, you also allow everyone else who has panoramic view to start seeing you. And so you get to integrate with the world in a whole new way. You get access to the world, a new part of the world that you didn't have access to previously because you hadn't been integrated with your shadow yet. And now that you are, you can move through the world and people can meet that version of you that you've integrated with, that you discovered as well. So that's what it is. So this is the kind of stuff we're talking about. You know what I mean? Like just casually in our house, we're just hanging out, having these conversations just in the day to day. And so we want to share this stuff with you. You know, you guys, it's really helpful. That we really had some great, meaningful conversations today. We're trying to keep the podcast a reasonable length because we don't want them to drag on. But it's also because a lot of this stuff is going to be mostly consumed through clips. Like a lot of this stuff we talk about, these conversations, we're going to clip up, and it's mostly going to be consumed by people through clips. So, you know, we don't want to drag it on too long. But today, I think the theme really today is how do we integrate with our shadow and allow ourselves to accept and let go so that we can become the best version of ourselves? Because that is the prerequisite to being where we're at this point in time, where our dreams are all starting to come true. And we're in that place where we need to learn to move through that and trust ourselves. But what I said previously is the prerequisite, like you said. And then number two, you know, we talked about circumambulation and this concept from Carl Jung, who talked all about how the psyche, the soul, wills us and calls us to circumambulate around what he would call complexes, which, you know, are a little bit complex, no pun intended, to describe, but let's just call them an internal dilemma between yourself and your inner unconscious parts of your shadow. And you circumambulate what he calls a complex that you have with yourself. You might have many, most of us do. And you circumambulate it until you shoot out the other side, integrated with it. And your soul willing you into doing that whole process is your spirit's way of helping you heal and integrate and evolve. And so lot of great content. In some other news, Zay and I will be having an in-person event coming soon. It was supposed to be in August. We had to delay it a few weeks into September. A lot of stuff happening, but we're really excited to do this. It's going to be an awesome time. We're going to have a potluck. Zay's going to have some activities we're going to do. I'm going to do a sound bath. We're going to have music playing. You know, I got a new album I've been making. We're going to have a great time, have some sweets, all this stuff. We're going to do a meditation at the end. It's going to be an amazing time. So we're really, really excited to be able to share more details about that soon. And on top of that, we're also going to be having some guests on the podcast soon, starting soon as well. And we've been invited on some other podcasts as well. So we're going to start doing some of those. You'll be seeing some of those here in the next few months. And we're also going to be going on a road trip to Utah here in a few weeks. So we're going to do a lot of documenting our time while we're traveling, and we're going to do podcasts on the go and all that jazz. So we're just really excited to keep sharing the story, right? And Zay, I'll let you talk about some of the business stuff you got going on as well.
Oh yeah, so I'm really excited to be making and selling essential oils. Truly Egyptian musk, sandalwood. Also have, you know, two other blends as well. Um, I'm really excited. You know, I'm in a place now where I'm ready to do my website. I've done my business flyer already. And then, you know, now I can have my stuff online. And then after that, I'll start having my stuff in the craft fairs, you know, which is the in-person markets for people that make and sell products, for those that don't know.
Yeah, so keep your eyes out. We got a lot of stuff coming. I just dropped a new album, by the way. It's called Dragon Warrior. It's side B. This is a double album, so this is just side B. I'm releasing each song from each side of the album, one song at a time. So 32 songs total, side A, side B, 16 songs on each side A and side B. I just got done releasing one song at a time for 4 months in a row. That's 16 weeks. So side B just came out. Go check it out. It's streaming everywhere. Link in my bio. Really appreciate the support. Side A starts coming out same exact way, one song at a time. this Friday, and we're gonna just keep it pushing. And I can't wait to show you guys a lot of the stuff that my team and I have cooked up and got to share with you guys on the way. So, from behalf of myself and Zay, we really appreciate you guys listening and being inspired. We're blessed to be able to be that light in your life. No matter how many people it is or isn't, that's not the point. It's about being able to be on this journey and see where God means for us to go with it. So we're blessed and we're grateful that we get to share this time with you, and we love you, and God bless.